when I started HYROX, I was like, I'm gonna run in sub 60, and then it took me 3 years of hard work to get there.
Wow.
And when I finally done it, I just realized it was just a hard benchmark that was established by the community. But for me, it meant I was like, proved myself that with hard work and showing up, and I can do those things that most people think is not possible for themselves.
My guest today is HYROX pro athlete Robin Perségol. Robin has an impressive HYROX resume with several sub-60 solo pro finishes, one of which earned him the 17th overall at last year's Pro Worlds. Today, Robin and I dive into what it takes to compete at his elite level as he takes me through the mental game of showing up just 1% better every day.
1% better every day.
Nice.
It's in fact probably 0.1% every day.
Robin was born and raised in rural France and started his athletic career on the pitch in the arena of rugby.
I get, kicked, punched, I get on the ground. They started kicking me everywhere. Me, the innocent young country boy. And so I just get on my knees, start to get up, want to grab his hand, and he slaps the shit out of me.
Robin came to America after being recruited to play Division I for the University of Oklahoma.
I live a very American life now. And my family, my grandma especially, I talk to her every week, and she's always like, how do you have time to do everything?
Life after rugby would prove to be a challenge. Without a clear purpose or mission in his life, Robin quickly spiraled into a lifestyle filled with poor choices that led him to question everything.
The shit has had to hit the fan until I just realized that I was a big part of the problem. I looked at myself in the mirror and I started to not recognize myself, and I was like, you're not the person you thought you were.
After that moment in the mirror, Robin chose to step into the stupid gap and rebuild himself from the ground up, aiming at a life that he didn't want to escape.
I needed to believe that people can change and I can change. You are what you think about. What would you tomorrow would want you today to do? Every day I show up to move the needle and be better at my craft. I'm learning so much.
Today, this elite athlete practices strength and vulnerability by sharing with me what is really behind his intense drive.
You talked about feeling like you're not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if you would go into that a little bit more, as to like where that comes from and how people can manage that sort of moving forward. Because I think it's
I knew
something
you were
that
about to ask this question.
I think it's something that resonates with a lot of people. Certainly does for me.
I mean, one thing that shows up as part of the fabric of who I am is
I started the show because as I personally consumed countless hours of podcasts over the years, I always found myself wishing that the host would dig deeper into the struggles that the guest faced and not just highlight their success, sticking to the script like every other host. The Stupid Gap podcast is built around the belief that everyone is the hero in their own story, and just like all heroes, they've experienced hardships along the way. I'm a one-man band, and I strive to level up my skills with each and every episode so that you get the best experience possible. If this resonates with you, or if you found the show to be valuable or entertaining in any way, please consider subscribing. Your support would mean the world to me. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
Robin, what are you most excited about in this season of your life right now, man? Like, what gets you out of bed?
everything. That's what is cool about where my life is, and it's only been a year that I can say the last piece in all the things I've put in motion over the past few years was working for myself, and it's going to be a full year in June. And so my business fires me up. I'm very excited, keep building. I'm learning so much every single day. So that's one thing. The second thing is my athletics. For the past few years, I've been getting to a higher and higher level in competing in HYROX and other endurance sports. And we are at the end of the season, which means getting to go to New York in a few weeks and then do the World Championship in a month in Sweden, which I've never been to. So I'm very excited about that too.
Nice.
And it's also, my relationship is going very well. And so it seems like those three kind of things that I'm, relationship and friendships, of course, but the three arena of life that I've been trying to spend a lot of energy and being mindful about how I show up and how I'm every day, if not moving the needle. Look at the shirt, 1% better every day.
Nice.
It's in
yeah.
fact probably 0.1% every day,
Yeah.
but at least always like making an effort, being here for a friend, being here for my partner,
Yeah.
or it is just, developing my business or even getting fitter and just training. So that's been what excites me is if I look at the past year, I've done so much growth in all those arenas. I like to say arenas, but it's areas really.
Sure.
Um,
Both are fit.
yeah, I think both works.
Yeah.
But I like the arena because I think there is some, the aspect of more like it's work, all of it. You have to be showing up and be mindful and be aware that, it's at times hard. It's not all easy, and in all of these arenas, it's like when it is hard that you do the more growth in relationship, but also when you overreach in training. That's how you get better. Or when you have your back to the wall and deadlines, or like no money in your job too. It's when you actually, find that other gear that allows you to show up to your best. And at least for me, if you don't crumble under the pressure, that's how I do my best. Like when I have a deadline, the amount of work that I do in the day prior, because I have this fire under my ass, it's sometimes I'm like, wow, imagine if you had worked a full week like that. So yeah, I think arenas is a good way to think about it.
I think the arena is it's definitely a more contextual word, like, okay, it takes effort, like you said, and sometimes it does feel like you're at battle. When did that gear that you're talking about, that your back's against the wall, when did that first show up for you in your life?
Wow, a long time ago. I definitely. So maybe to backtrack, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, south of France, and there was not much to do. As far as I always knew I wanted to be an architect. I was always inclined to do sports, and then I discovered rugby, and I wanted to play at a higher level and end up maybe being professional. So those things showed up in my life when I was a teen, really. And then I got selected to be part of a rugby program away from home, and I was 15 and moving away from my family for the first time and going to a city, growing up in a small town. And so I think that was the first time, and that's when I did the most growth as far as just playing the game of rugby, and also probably as a getting in maturity as a teen. I would be with guys that were 2, 3, sometimes 4 years older than me, in a dorm, and then on the field I would get beat up constantly because those guys were more experienced. And then, as you know, when you're a teen, like the difference between being 14, 15 and being an 18-year-old, it's quite a bit of difference in strength and in just also in level of experience. And so I would say my first experience, I know, and I bring a lot of things to athletics because it's what I'm passionate about, but that's when I had the most growth because, and I got selected after my first year there. I got selected to play for a pro team in the academy, and I did all that growth in that year because, well, if you were not you couldn't show up and just be like, oh, I'm gonna wing that training, because you would get, rugby is a physical sport. If you go at 20%, well, you get wrecked. So when you have guys that are bigger, stronger, meaner, well, you have to race to the occasion, or you get. And it fired me up too. But that was my first experience, and also same thing with emotionally, because I was away from my parents and where I grew up and everything that I was familiar with, and spent a lot of time alone and a lot of time with just different individuals that were not family. Like, it's hard to not at times hate all your teammates when you spend all day every day together. So to feel like there was
So this was like a traveling team?
So the way it works for these kind of programs in France, very briefly, it's just it's called sport and school basically, and then they recruit kids based on their ability on the field to all gather up and do this high school kind of a degree where we would train together every single day after school, and so that's kind of it's a program to, because rugby is a big sport in France, and it's kind of a way to just recruit good players and get them to go to the next level while they are in high school. We don't have college sport in France; it's all club. So then the goal to all of us was to get recruited by in academy for a professional team or go play professional. And I got recruited after that 1 year. And so my life changed from I switched high school, went to a bigger city further away from home, and then that one team was one of the best academy in the world. There was like players recruited from Fiji, from everywhere that plays rugby. We had some Australians, some South Africans, some people that dedicate their whole life to playing the sports. And I was still very much focused on my study compared to most of my teammates. I still knew that I wanted to be an architect, still knew that with all the beating you get, and rugby is a short-lived sport, and at 33, 35, it's probably the end of your career. So there's, you have to think about what's next. But this academy is definitely professional, as like we would meet all the pro players that are like on TV. They would come and eat at the same cafeteria as us. You would have like all the strength and conditioning that would be next level. They would track our body fat. It would be twice a day training, and then we would play against all the best team that were also academies across France. So it would be some team in Paris, some team in the south of France. You would travel much more because that was the top championship. So that was the next level. So I switched during high school, and then another humbling experience.
So that was the first arena that you stepped into, basically. Was rugby, and then you were around a bunch of these older guys that were, I won't say bullying, but they were hard dudes.
In my first, that was definitely like almost. I've never been in a fraternity, but it's what I picture as like hazing. There was so much hazing when you were first year. We got in trouble. A lot, all of us, even though we were the victim in that.
Sure.
But yeah, like stuff that because it's physical, so there was a lot of beating up happening. Then you get you used to it, but there is some stuff like we would do. I'm gonna go on a very quick segues because it's always crazy. Like it's crazy to me that I had to do that. They were doing a manhunt. It was the first year. Would run up this 4-story building that was closed on Wednesdays because whatever. It was not open to classes, so it was a class building. We would run up and hide, and then the older years would all like try to find us in that building. And then if they find you, they beat you up.
They just beat the shit out of you.
Yeah. And so it would be like you feel like you run for your life, even though it's not gonna, actually really hurt you. They found me while I was still running up because they didn't give you, a lot of head start. They found me in the middle of the hallway on the top floor, and so I get, kicked, punched. I get on the ground. They started kicking me everywhere, not on the face, not on the privates, but everywhere else. And then I remember vividly. I will remember that was me, the innocent young country boy. I'm on the ground. The first wave, those guys are gone. They beat me up. Then there is another wave that comes or that was just delayed, of a few guys. And then one of the guy just hold his hand to help me get up. And so I just get on my knees, start to get up, want to grab his hand, and he slaps the shit out of me. And then I will remember that forever. It was like thinking that, everyone was like well-intentioned, and that was a good slap in the face.
Yeah. Do you think that experience, and not just the hazing, right? And because that shit doesn't fly anymore these days, but like just that experience of being in that arena, like what did that do for you in your life? How did that set you up for the rest of your life?
I don't know what is specifically about the hazing, or if it's just that experience of the whole going through rugby school and the academy of a professional team. And um, I think it definitely taught me how to roll with the punch and showing up every single day. Like I said, because that's one thing about rugby, because it's very physical. Um, there's a lot of injuries, and so if you have to go hard, if you don't want to, because you only have, I mean, you have to be raised to the level as the rest of the players on the field. And so that forced me to be, I would say, consistent and day in, day out, like constantly showing up and train. I think that taught me the discipline of, it's hard when, as you know, sometimes, and you've trained for many years, so you probably have developed a lot of discipline, but for some people and a lot of people, it's hard to just like have a consistent regiment and show up and wake up and do the thing. I grew up in those very formative years from, I would say, 15 to 21, where I had to wake up early to train. I had to go to training after a long day of class and train as well. And so it's like the discipline that forced me, there was never then like there was not an option to not do it. And I work the same still to this day. I'm like, that's what you want to be. You want to be this athlete. You like the accolades of, being a very fast HYROX athlete that have a high ranking in the world. Well, everything that I have to do now, every time I feel like these moments of, I don't feel like it today, and I start negotiating with myself, I'm like, what would the best version of me do right now? I always tell myself that. And it's like Chris Williamson, I heard that years ago. It's what would you tomorrow would want you today to do? I always think about this. It's my background on my computer too.
Okay, nice.
On my desktop. Because with work, I did a lot with that. Or like, I was like, I can push to later things. But then, tomorrow I will wish that I've done it yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's the same. We all negotiate with ourselves. So I'd really try to, it's weird to talk about yourself in a third person sometimes, but I like what Robin would want you to do like tomorrow. Like, don't you wish you had done that training? And then don't you wish you had, even like for me, sometimes hard to do take the rest day, because that might be the best answer to dealing with a nagging injury. And so I would not be injured right now if I had listened to myself when that started. But it's always like looking at the interest of my future self, and also be true to what I tell myself. It's always like, your thoughts, like you are what you think about. And like if in my head I'm like, I am this really good athlete and I'm performing at this level, and all my decision, I'm stacking the proof, and I'm stacking all the training session that like literally, if at least I'm not performing at the level I thought I was capable of, I know I put the work and I give my best shot at being that person. So I think it's one thing. It's just back to the question about the rugby school, and back then my identity was to be a rugby player, and every single day I showed up and I did the thing without questioning it. And today it's the same. It's like, I'm a business owner now, and every day I show up to move the needle and be better at my craft. I'm learning so much about very boring stuff, but that can improve my processes and make my time more valuable for my company and all of that. And same thing for, in my head, I am this good athlete, and so I live my life as a pro athlete. And so I think it's pretend or fake it until you make it. There is definitely some of that. Yeah.
Interesting. So the arena of rugby taught you basically how to show up, how to keep pushing, how to build that mechanism for accountability is what it sounds like. And I love everything that you talked about, man. Like I'm deep in that stuff myself. On my mirror, I have a version of what does you tomorrow want you today to do, which is today you have the power to create the reality of tomorrow. So seize it. And so, yeah, I love that. So from rugby, that was the first arena that you stepped into. That was the
Mhm.
first time that you were really challenged and you started to build that muscle for accountability. After rugby, what was life after rugby like?
Well, you have to fast forward a few years and moving across to the. I was still playing rugby in the US, but it was definitely it was recreational, and it was for fun. But I definitely, as part of my identity, when I stopped playing rugby and I moved to Austin and I tried, and it was very. I was. I had moved away from the performance, and I was very busy as a young professional here, and traffic, walking downtown, trying to make it to a practice, an hour of driving away. Like, it didn't seem to make sense anymore, so I stopped playing. And I definitely had a big gap of a few years, probably a couple of years, where I didn't have rugby as my identity. I didn't have this thing to chase anymore. I didn't have, even if when it was recreational, I would still train several times a week. I would travel and play. I would have the camaraderie and the friendship and the brotherhood, everything. Like, that's what's something that is amazing about rugby that I still miss to these days. You feel like you are at war together with those guys. You physically push each other. Like, when you're in a scrum, it's like 8 guys pushing together physically to move the other team. You lift each other on the line out. You carry up the players. There was something about having someone that always have your back, because you go down, you try to fight for the ball. There is the rucks where you just push each other to get the possession of the ball. So all of that, I lost it when I stopped playing rugby too. And all my friendships, or most of them, had been also around the sport. So it was definitely a couple of years of, like, I didn't know what to do with myself. Started climbing, 220 pounds guy, not very good at it. But it's because one of my friends was doing it, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. So yeah, I had definitely a interesting time where gain weight, would drink much. Well, I would keep the partying lifestyle of college into my younger, I guess, professional life.
So at this time when you separated from rugby, this was post college, during college, right after college?
Right after college, when I moved down to Austin.
Okay, so so very transitional space for you, and I'd love to dive more into, like, that identity shift for you, and what your mindset was like at that time. That's something that I've personally gone through as well with the fire service, and so I know how difficult it is when you step out of something that you didn't even know was so much of your identity. And so I'd love to hear more of your experience on just what that was like coming out of that identity shift, and what sort of got you out of it.
It's funny because it's a easy question, but it's a very complicated answers. But because it's so many little events and things that happened in my life that there was no dramatic change that was like. I would say the one biggest single thing was discovering functional fitness and CrossFit, and that's what reignited my competitiveness. My competitiveness is that I guess my love for just a challenge and competition with others next to you in the room and all of that. As far as the fitness journey, but that kind of triggers a lot of changes after. But at the time, I was with my ex. She was living in Houston, so I would spend a lot of time traveling to Houston too. I would just learn how to be on my own a professional, because you finish college and then you're thrown in the adult world, and then so there was distance relationship. There was learning how to find still an outlet, a physical outlet. So for me, it became climbing and a little bit of lifting. And then it was just learning to roll with the 9 to 5, which was rarely 9 to 5 with the amount of work I had to do. But really, if there was one, I guess, big switch, was discovering fitness, and then becoming obsessed with it. That was I guess I didn't have really, if I reflect like very briefly about that time, I didn't have anything that fired me up. My job was interesting. I had really cool projects overseas, and but that was the same thing I had done in an internship with the same project, same people when I was still in college. So like there was nothing new there. But when I discovered CrossFit, I was like, started to go to the gym twice a day. And well, not right away, but very soon after, when you get your first muscle up, so you start handstand walking and you're on the moon, you're like, wow, I can do all those things. And it started to just give me something, a passion, something to work toward, and then discover the community in CrossFit, which was great. Everyone is super supportive, but at the same time, it's like there is a whiteboard, you want to beat everyone on the whiteboard. So it's like, it's all the things I had missed for those few years. And then I don't think I was very good at working on my relationship. I was definitely thinking that love was just you fall in love and then there is nothing else to do. I didn't realize that I had to work on myself, make any effort and concession and meet in the middle and all of that. I was definitely not a very good partner. So I think I'll go back to the 3 arenas again. It's like, now I understand that you can work on all 3 at once, and I understand that there is some things that gotta give at sometimes, right? It cannot be 150% on each. But then I think back then when I started to be obsessed with CrossFit, I definitely put it over my relationship, so that suffered from it. Then I also put it probably over my work. I would go to work out for an hour at lunch while I was downtown. I would go to the Gold Gym downtown, and that would be my lunch break. It would be extended. People would talk about it. It was like, oh, this guy is gone for an hour and 15 minutes every day, and then he eats at his desk after his Chipotle bowl every single lunch. So I was not the best employee, and then I had to, rush out at night because I wanted to get to my second training. So I had to go through that. I had to go through being obsessed with that thing. And then
But before that, so a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to kind of ask, did you ever feel lost? Like before you found CrossFit, in those few years that you were post-rugby, like, what did that feel like for you? Because like now, obviously, hindsight, you can sit back and say, oh, yes, like I made it. Like you can connect the dots looking backwards and be like, oh, yeah, it was this identity shift that I was going through. But like in the moment, at least it was for me, I didn't recognize that this was, it was an identity. It was tied to my identity. I just kind of felt lost. And so what was that like for you?
It's hard to go back in time and just be like, oh, that's how I felt at the time, because now, you've looked at it and then you fill the blanks of like what was going on and why. I think it's definitely identity, but it's definitely, for me, it's like having nothing to work toward, right? I know, for example, for my career, the past 8 years working for my company was always with the back of my mind that one day I wanted to work for myself. So like that was something that was behind, and I have kind of this end goal very distant. So back when I started college, that was a very, very, very distant goal of mine. So I didn't have really any goal except just learning the job. And then I had nothing to work toward physically, no hobby, no really anything but video games. And then relationship, same thing. I didn't really make any effort. Like I said, it was just like, for me, I didn't really realize how much work has to go into being a good partner to someone. And I definitely think because I was lost and unhappy, I definitely was not also the best partner, and definitely probably having fights that you shouldn't have had because you're unhappy and bored, and like that's now I'm so averse to drama, but back then I feel like I created drama because of just not to spice up the daily life, but like it was definitely out of boredom sometimes that like some fights were happening, picking up fights. Now I don't have the energy for it.
Well, age will do that, I think.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay. So kind of transitioning that gap between, that identity as a rugby player and athlete into sort of just figuring it out. Sounds like led to a lot of stagnation and led to just a lot of, I won't say self-destructive behavior, but like just kind of bullshit behavior, you know? And it resonates deeply with me, dude. Like, very similar journey for me. And so once you now get into CrossFit and you feel like you're making forward momentum in athletics again, would you say that this was another arena, or is this still the same arena of rugby in your mind and going back to what we talked about earlier about finding that gear for that next level to keep yourself going and to achieve and to work hard, Did CrossFit play a part of that? Did finding that community play a part of that? Like, what role did finding that community play in your life?
Well, so another aspect that I just thought about as you were asking the question is confidence. There is also something about physical appearance, and then I gained a lot of weight too, and I didn't feel like very good. And what CrossFit does, if you do a lot of it, is like you get in a very good shape, and so that also helped a lot how I carry myself, in the world, is just like feeling better about how you look physically. That definitely helped. So that was one thing that I saw a shift to, as part of this big picture, and like how the transformation from that rough couple years to finding a pursuit and one of the, I guess, the benefits. And then also I guess something that's important is making sure, now I'm thinking about it too, is that my partner thought I would be like that was cheating on her to go to CrossFit. It was like, you literally think that thing is more important for me. Like, sometimes I would not tell her that I go train, and she'd be like, what, you were training again? Like, we had said we would do that. And it was like, it became almost unhealthy. So that's the problem of like, I would say now I'm definitely a fitness addict. Like, I cannot live a day without, I planned my whole life around it. But then it became to a point where it was detrimental because I was not happy in my relationship. And
would you say you were
used
using
that as a
it?
clutch, I would say.
Okay.
As like an escape, as a way to just it was a pursuit, but it was in a unhealthy way because I used it to numb so many other things. Yeah.
Were you aware of that then? Or only now?
The only reason I was aware is because my ex at the time was like, you just spend that would be a big reason for arguments, and so I was aware, but also very dismissive. Yeah.
But were you aware of the underlying mechanism?
No.
Yeah, right. You were aware that it was an issue, but not why.
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of going back, like, I guess, advice for yourself back then. What advice would you give yourself in those moments if you could go back and do it perfectly, or if someone else is in that gap of, transitioning out of an identity shift? And would you say like starting somewhere with something that will give you confidence would be a great first step? For you, it was athletics. And then from there, like, what advice would you give yourself in order to create awareness around your behaviors as you step into this new space that's giving you, a shift in identity or forward momentum and confidence? Like, what advice do you have for yourself back then?
I'm going to answer this question, but it's not going to be like a straight answer because I think what happened to me and come to a realization and being able to do a lot of this work that now I wish I had done earlier, he had to be at a breaking point, right? It's sometimes like we started with, it's like you have to have your back to the wall. And I feel like there is no solution, and then that's when you have to be resourceful, and that's when that friction creates the changes. Back then I was not happy, but I probably couldn't have said that. I don't think until actually I can say I've been happy in the past few years. I realized how miserable I was back then. But so if strong of my experience now, and I went through a divorce, and then it was a very low point after that of my life. I can say that back then, if I started journaling and just reflect on things and starting to just think about relationship, but also same thing with training and like, why do I train? Just like answer that question, or how can I show up better for my partner? Or like, she's saying I do that a lot. Like, is it really about me doing this, or is it about like reflect? And I would not be. No, it's not even willing. I guess it was like I was not aware of like all the underlying things. I would just be very like, oh, you say that, like you shouldn't be saying that, and I would like, ping pong battle of like saying things, but without ever going one layer deeper and say like, why are you reacting this way? Why am I reacting this way? Like finding trigger points and just like going like working backward. We've never done that, and so I think you have to go through reflection, and then at least for me, the shit has had to hit the fan until I just realized that I was a big part of the problem. And I had to own to all my mistakes, and it went through ownership and reflecting and talking to a therapist, and all of that happened later on. Back then, I don't think I was aware of most of the things underlying why I felt just unhappy and lost. Yeah.
You think journaling is?
Journaling was a big one for me. I tried to do like everything. I'm kind of an all or nothing guy. So when I started journaling, I would do it every single day. That was my first thing. And then I got like a journal with prompt in it, so that was helping too. And then when I also started to talk to a counselor, had some, between session, I had to do some writing and thinking for the next one. So that was very guided, and I found that plus the pain of going through divorce and losing your partner and best friend and some stuff that happened in my life at the time. That's when I had to do a lot of reflecting. And so not that you have to go through a breakup or like something or a loss to make a change, but I definitely think it's like nothing changes if nothing ever changes, right? So that saying is, for me, I had no reason to, or I didn't realize I had all this reason. And then when I went through this pivotal moment, it just like, I mean, you were in such a hurt that something has to like I needed to change, because for the first time I looked at myself in the mirror and I was not that great guy I thought I was, because I had to own to all the BS and all the fights and all the how bad of a partner I was. I always thought I was a good guy. And it's hard when it's back to like the evidence stacking. It's like, well, now I'm looking at all this evidence of the things that I've said and done, and it's like, wow, you are a piece of shit by more standard. And it's like how I showed up in the world. I'm that nice coworker that is nice to work with. Never really had any issue with my coworkers ever. Same thing with my teammates. I was always told that I was like a very reliable and teammates that I was always, here per also my position on the field. What I would do is constantly support and come here after the guy holding the ball. So I had all this, I guess, perception of myself that, and also to my parents, I was a good son, and like I was a good family member. But then the person that I was with, I was not treating her properly, and I was not here for her, and I was not a partner. And so, yeah, that was definitely in addition to the divorce, it was also like realizing. So I think that's why that time in my life felt so hard and I felt so lonely, is because I was like, the perception of who I was changed, and it was not for the best. So, yeah.
Why was it important to you to be, like, if you had all this external accolades from, you know, your work, from your athletics, and you had great success with all of these relationships, why was it so important to you to be successful in your personal relationship as well, or your romantic relationship?
Well, I would say that there was like a with COVID, and then I got married with my ex. It was precipitated because of immigration, because of parent pressure and family pressure and all of that. And so got thrown into now what was supposed to be a lifelong partnership. So there was a lot of pressure around that. And I mean, of course, that's important to, you know, work through life and be a partner to wherever you were. And I don't think I really realized what that meant. When we got married, I had a lot of doubt about her even being my person, but I still went with it. And then came with that the, you know, feeling trapped. And so I guess now I realize all the things that I did wrong. And I think you can ask my current girlfriend. I think it's night and day the partner I am. Also, we are way more compatible, but that's something else. We cannot really compare also the individuals, but me as a person, I really try to understand and give her space to express herself, and really try to have an open communication and don't have any expectation and manage mine, but also understand what she expects. And that's something that I was terrible at. And I would only think about my interest and not at the interest of the partnership, which now I put above everything else. Every time we start to have an argument, we're like, hey, and she does the same. It's like, what are we doing now? It's like, let's step back. That's not helping any of us to just finger points and just like, one of us did that wrong. Let's, you know, pivot and, you know, think about it through the lens of, but it doesn't mean I can say, oh, I'm hurt because you've done that, or she can do the same. But also it's like, back then I was very selfish and I only thought about myself, and that's not how, you know, a partnership or being married should be, right? So I don't know exactly what was your question, but it was about how important it was to show up and in my relationship the same way I would show up to the rest of the world, right? That was what you asked.
Effectively, yeah. Because I feel like, and what sparked my question was, I feel like particularly as men, when we get this external accolade, especially from work and athletics, it's super easy to lean into that because it feels good and you're confident with it. And then it's easy to ignore your personal relationship. And so, but I think a big part of maturing is recognizing that, no, your partnership and who you end up with and that romantic relationship is the most important.
This is the most important.
It's the most important arena that you can step into as a man. And so, like, I'm curious how that recognition came about for you of, like, you know, and it sounds like, you know, from your divorce sort of reinforced that into your life. And so, I just kind of want to.
Yeah, I definitely neglected that arena by far the most.
Yeah.
So strong of that failed relationship. And when I reflected a lot over the following year, that's one thing that came to the top, is that finding your partner wherever you do life with is the most important single choice you can do. And then I was lucky to find that person, and right away I was like, oh wow, she's amazing. And then from there I was like, you have to be very mindful of all your triggers, all the stuff you've done in the past, that were also triggering the other person, like all the gaslighting and all the manipulating conversation and arguments because I wanted to win the argument. And that was, realizing again that we're a partnership, and like I was doing in rugby, if you want the team, and that was crazy, is that was a good teammate and not, pointing fingers when there is a mistake done on the field, and was captains too at times of the team, and just like I just realized that I needed to apply the same to my for the success of our team. There is something that I really needed to work on. And then it was not perfect from the get-go, but I think we've been together 4.5 years, and it's been better and better and better over the past few years. We rarely have friction anymore, and I think when we have, it's justified, and we work through it. Back then, it would be big fights, screaming matches, no resolution, just an apology that was not sincere, and then move on to the next fight the next day, and then it stacks up to a point where, it's like, how are you supposed to go through that mountain of terrible things done and said to each other? And so yeah, definitely the single most important thing is, now I live through the healthier relationship. I'm like, oh my God, it's like, it's still work, but going through hell of a relationship versus a very healthy one where you feel supported and you support your partner. Wow, it's not the same life, really. And I think that's why I'm able to achieve in my athletic life and all those successes that I had. And then same thing with being able to build my business and all of that is definitely because we have a very strong and healthy relationship. And so I don't have to spend so much energy worrying and stressing about, our life together, because it just feels right. And it's also, I know she has my back and I know I have her back. So yeah.
So you attribute a lot of your success in the arena of athletics and business to the success and the dedication of your romantic relationship.
Well, yeah, I think those are my 3 arenas personally, and I always think that now I found a balance where once one of them maybe struggle more, I can usually it's rare that like all 3 goes to shit at the same time. So it's a way to kind of balance out the other. And usually when I'm injured, I'm mindfully being like, well, I have more time to do this and spend more time and make sure we go on a walk every morning just together chatting. And because instead of running, well, I get to do that. Usually I'm training or I'm really trying to, it's almost like distributing the chips. Like it's like I'm grabbing from that stack and I'm like, okay, now I have all of these available here, but without never, well, I don't anymore just grab all the stacks and then putting it away. And I think that's been my single, because I live a very American life now. And my family, my grandma especially, I talk to her every week and she's always like, how do you have time to do everything? And I'm like, well, I really feel lucky and I am very passionate about the things that I'm getting. I really get to chase them. I love my job. I love what I do. I love training. I love performances. I love being better this year than I was last year because I showed up every single day. I love seeing where our relationship with Shelby is going because I think we just seems to be these unstoppable forces when we are together. And it's like all of that didn't happen overnight. It's been, a lifelong in the making. But when my grandma is like, how do you have energy to do all of that? I'm like, you have 100+ hours awake every week. I sleep a lot and I try to maximize my sleep so I can show up on the days I'm awake. I don't drink anymore because, that was borrowing some energy and I guess time for the following day. When I'm not gonna say I'm sober, because here and there I had a few glasses of wine. I don't want to call myself that, but in the past year, I've not been drunk once. I don't miss it, and it's one of those, or like, I'm really trying to maximize the time I have every week to make it all happen, because I train, probably close to 15 hours a week, and being a business owner means last night I worked until 9:30 on a Sunday. It's not always, but if it's not always easy, but it feels much easier to do it for a boss and managers, and like I do it for myself and my clients. And same thing for training. It's like some of the most fulfilling moments I've had in the past few years is like not even the race itself, because the race sucks and you're hurting the whole time and you're like questioning your whole life. And even though you've been, training so much for it, it's really the once you're done and you're spent and you're like finishing and you're like, okay, that's it. Like I have done all this work and that's how I showed up. And I hit that time that I've been visualizing and thinking about for now 5-6 months, like, working towards something. And so I think it's very fulfilling, because it's, even though it's always about me reaching my potential and being the best version that I can be. So even, I don't know if you know HYROX, but like a sub 60 is a good time. Even if I was finishing in 105, but I know that I gave my absolutely best, and when things got hard, I still show up to the best of my abilities. That's what fires me up, and that's why HYROX is just one workout, right? It's just running in the same succession of stations. And when I did it once, I was like, at first I was like, I'm gonna do it one time and be done with it. It was just to try. But then when I did it, and I found so many opportunities to get better, and then I did it again and I got better, but I got humbled by other things. And then it was like always piecing together that puzzle and trying to be better at running. And it's just addicting, because you are getting better and better every time. And at the same time, it doesn't force you to just be only in the gym or only running outside. You do all of it. But at least for me, it was just it's just an outlet to be chasing something that really makes me feel alive, but not only for the HYROX itself. It could be anything else. It's just having something that I work toward daily, and then I guess it would suck if you were doing all of that and don't get better, right? It's like definitely the progression, and almost like when you play a game, having, the experience and you're leveling up. It's how it feels to me. It's a kind of a way to just have this benchmark, and then you're leveling up every time, almost
1%
like
better
that.
every day.
Yeah. Well, 0.1%. I'm gonna add a 0.1% here.
Perfect. What would you say? So, like, your life is pretty dialed right now. I mean,
I would say so.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody that doesn't, they're maybe in that desert of being lost between their identity, and they need to take a first step towards something? What advice would you give to that person?
Once again, it's going to be very athletic minded, because it's who I am. But I see it in my little brothers. Like, I have 2 little brothers. I hope they look up to me. I think they do. Both of them in the past couple of years, they're younger and they are going through stuff of their own lives, but both of them signed up for a race. It was a running race, but that gave them a reason to get outside and get running. One of my brother had not ran in a few years, happy in a relationship, no reason to just, get those demons out in the mountain on the trails. And so he stopped, and then having that gave him a reason to get back out there. And it's so good for you. It's good for your physical health, but mental. The time you spend alone with your thoughts, it allows you to reflect on anything. I really think that he's been healthier mentally, just because of that. Then it forces you also to have a life that is more regimented, especially when you lost. And it's overwhelming, and it's what was overwhelming me back then. I had all these nights where I was like, nothing to do, come from work at 6. If your food is ready, it's like, can I watch 3 episodes, 4 episodes of a show, play video games? It would not be like, I have no structure. And then it's like, well, you started playing video games, it's already 11, but it's like, well, you don't have to train in the morning. So I think doing something like signing up for something, or having a coach, or showing up to a class and having a schedule for that, it forces you to add structure. And then it's when you're like, well, I cannot get drunk anymore on a Tuesday and go out until midnight, because every Wednesday I have this meetup at 6. And so I think it's one change that people can do, is put something on the calendar, or have, maybe it's a fat loss weight, like a weight goal. You want to hit, lose 20 pounds in the next few months, but have something that challenges you, that forces you to daily take the appropriate actions to get toward that goal. Like a fat loss, it would be not only watching what you eat, but how much you drink, how much you sleep. And then all of that are better habits to ultimately, the whole, you say, dialing in. Like, the more dialing you are in all those aspects, I feel like it's just a way to, everything comes together, because you are a healthier version of yourself, and then you start to feel better about yourself too. And then usually it shows up in relationships, and then as long as you don't get obsessed with that pursuit once again, you're also most likely going to be better if you have you're career oriented and it's one of your arena at work and everything. I think it's a net positive. I don't see any really downside of doing that, and it doesn't have to be signing up for a race. I use it because that's what the people around me are doing, or something similar. But yeah, I would say, if you're lost right now, most likely is because there is nothing really that fires you up. So find that thing, and then make it a tangible goal, not something that's like, in 12 years I want to own a $5 million house. Yeah, okay, well, good luck figure out the way to get there. But if it's something like, I want to be an Ironman next year, that's a full year to be better at 3 sports, and then you're gonna have a lot of work to get there. So that means maybe find an actionable goal that is closer, and maybe in 3 months you're gonna do your first sprint triathlon. And then it's gonna be like, oh, maybe I'm gonna take my first classes of swimming, and then I'm gonna meet like-minded individuals that also are on this journey of learning how to swim for a triathlon. And then that's something I've not mentioned, but community. That's something that's been amazing about Austin, is that by pursuing those goals, I met so many like-minded people, and then it's just, so much fuel to your fire. It's like, there is definitely the comparison that helps, but also like having training partners. Like, some of my very best friends now are like people that I train with them a few times a week, and we go on runs together, and then we have amazing conversation around coffee after runs, and it's all, the vector has been a physical athletic pursuit. So if you're lost and you have all of that, I don't know what to tell you. But if you are lost and don't do anything that gets you out of your comfort zone, and that makes you healthier, and at the same time is a great way to meet people, especially I uprooted my entire life from France, and my way to meet people has always been fitness. I'm thinking about, if you're unhappy and you are in the town you've grown up in the middle of nowhere, and you hear it all the time, but that's been my case. It's like, move away, number one. And then ideally, don't stay alone when you are away from everyone and your community where you grew up. And sports has been an amazing vector for me and for so many people that I know, as like, meet all those people that get after it, and then find something to also do the work and show up and be like, hey, I couldn't run a 5K 6 months ago, and now I can run 3 miles for the American people. You couldn't run 3 miles 5 months ago, and now you're gonna run your first marathon in 2 months. And it's like proving yourself that you can do hard things. And I mean, there's nothing really more exciting to me. I think that's what fires me up, and that's why getting sub 60 in HYROX was, when I started HYROX, I was like, I'm gonna run in sub 60, and then it took me 3 years of hard work to get there.
Wow.
And when I finally done it, I just realized it was just a hard benchmark that was established by the community. But for me, it meant I was like, proved myself that with hard work and showing up, and I can do those things that most people think is not possible for themselves. Well, and for myself, I was, I guess, a little bit too enthusiastic, thinking I could get it in my first year. So he taught me that, well, you have to be patient, and you have to hire a very good coach, and you have to, you're gonna have to roll with the punches and do it for 3 years. But when I was there, I was like, I know I can do more. So here we are, chasing more.
So in this journey to do more and to be better and to continue to pursue hard things, you know, I think accountability is a big, and we touched a little bit on it before, but it's like, how do you continually keep yourself accountable to these goals without getting, you know, too down on yourself or too hard on yourself, or like, you know, walk me through your strategies for accountability. Do you practice grace for yourself? If so, how? What does that look like? What are your practices for this?
I think I'm pretty hard on myself. I think I was harder on myself probably before, when I was unhappy. I definitely give myself more grace. Now I think I started to accomplish more and more. I think I needed to be hard on myself to be able to just... But it's interesting because I was hard on myself, but not really understanding, you know, you failed to do that, or you were not a good partner, all of those things. But I never really tried to go one layer, once again, further to understand things. Now I feel like I understand a lot of the patterns and the way I do things. That's when I can give myself grace and be like, well, you didn't get there, but there was all this reason. And without, bullshitting myself and finding excuses, I think can now decipher what's within my control versus what was external factors I had no control over. And when I had control on things, that's really where I usually try to focus, and it goes back to doing your best with what you got. And so when I don't give myself grace is when I would like to say it's rarely, but sometimes it's like I've just, you're tired, but I don't think it's a good enough reason to just like half-ass a workout, for example. You can be tired, but it's part of a training is overreaching, and then as long as you try to recover after. So sometimes I'm like, damn, I come back from a workout or even from a presentation where I know I didn't do enough work and I didn't manage my time properly, and I got like trapped into focusing on one design aspect and totally forgot about something that I discussed with client and all that. And it's like, I think I am pretty hard on myself in those instances because that's the only way I personally am able to learn and not do it again. And for training, it's been many years of like happening often to just like try to be consistently good. And then so those bad session is trying to be like, at least the grace I give myself, it's like if I have a very off day, I'm like, well, it's better to do it at 75% than just stay in bed and be like, I'll be better tomorrow. So showing up, and maybe it's not going to be great, but just, the whole consistently good over occasionally great, or whatever is that saying. So grace, I don't think I'm the best at giving myself grace, but I think also that's how I've been able to crush it in the arena of athletics and business. Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple times like going a layer deeper.
Uh-huh.
What does that look like for you? What does that mean to you?
Layer deeper meaning as and I'm still unpacking things like here and there. It's not like I have everything figured out by any means, but understanding why you react to certain things, like in relationship, or I don't think I had this understanding. I was to say growing up, but definitely I was still growing up, I guess, when I moved to Austin, and I still am growing up. But I didn't have any. I have not done any work to be understanding how Robin like function and what motivated him and what is the carrots I need to dangle to get him to move forward. Also, what are the things that makes him, get angry, like triggers a response or scares him or all those things. And so I think I recognized things, but I never really tried to understand why I would be. And I mean, I'm sure I could go much deeper in understanding, but at least now, because I understand, I try to utilize it to my advantage, and so that meant, a relationship, not letting, stuff happen that would, in the past, I would have just freaked out. And now it's like, well, you're freaking out because this and this and this. Take a moment for like, that's been a common thing too, is just being able to step back for everything. Not only relationship, but in relationship is like not having reactions right away and trying to step back, have an overview and trying to understand more the situation, and then think about it before opening your mouth. Which,
why is that important to
well,
practice that in
because
a relationship?
Well, and it's going back to what we just talked about for the interest of the relationship, and me having a very emotional reaction and not a much reflection behind it. It's probably not the best for the partnership.
Being reactive.
Being very reactive, and that used to be one of my issue. And I grew up in a household where my dad's super reactive. My mom is pretty reactive too. And so that's where I learned it, right? And it's like how I see them still function to this day, and that works for them. I think they've had a very happy marriage, at least from my perspective. But I started to be showing up the same in my relationship, and then not only with my previous wife, but also my relationship younger. I would show up exactly the same way, being very reactive, and didn't really ever understand why in the first place. I would just like, when they would make me feel like, I don't know, I'm not enough, for example. Like, at first it was like, it would have been a few years ago, that would have been, feel like I'm not good enough, and then trigger reaction, reactive, being attacking back, not defending myself, but because I was hurt, would be trying to hurt back. Now I understand that, without going into why I feel like someone telling me I'm not good enough, but like just to the recognizing that's already what's happening. That's, I guess there's, so many layers to that, but at least recognizing, and it's like, oh, now you're getting emotional because what they are saying to you is, something that you're very sensitive. And so that's why right now you want to just, exalt and be just when the aggression comes. So recognizing that pattern and then being able to just step aside, take a moment, and then being able to have a level-headed, mature response and be like, hey, like that's not cool because of that, whatever. That's one example that comes to my mind right now. But does it make sense?
Yeah. And I'm curious, like for you, being as though like where you are now, you talked about a little bit about feeling like you're not enough. And I'm curious if you would go into that a little bit more, as like where that comes from and how people can manage that sort of moving forward. Because I think it's something
you were about to ask this question.
I think it's something that resonates with a lot of people. Certainly does for me.
Well, my dad doesn't understand English, so he won't listen to the podcast.
Okay.
Well, I mean, one thing that shows up as part of the fabric of who I am is my dad did this very thing that I still admire to this day. And he's still in the middle of doing it. But where I'm from, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's beautiful. It's a national park. There is no many industry other than tourism. People come to hike and spend time on the river and hotels and campgrounds, whatever. But he got very passionate about starting a truffle farm as I was born. And he was a teacher, but would do that every weekend. That was his pursuit. That was his third arena. He had the family life and us. He had his day job. And then he had that passion of his. And he came from something that was non-existent in my region. And there's a lot of vineyards that were abandoned early 20th century. So like in the there was some tough outbreak of a disease. All the vineyards died and then never restarted the industry. So all those lands were very, very steep down a canyon and nobody would utilize for anything. And then he started that. It became a passion project that he poured his soul and energy and every weekend, often nights. And it's in a town that is 30 minutes or so away from my town where I lived. So I grew up and I still I admire him for the amount of energy and what he built from ground up. Nobody believed in him. Nobody knew even there was money. I mean, people know that truffle is expensive mushrooms, but they don't know about the work that goes into it and all of that. So one of the downside I would say of that is that him being so obsessed with this and him not being home, the only time I would spend time really with him, free time, would be on vacation. And then if I were to come help him on his plantations, doing manual labor. And it would be more the drive with him, doing labor, and then the drive back with him. All of that to say that maybe there was a little bit of neglect as part of it, as him always being gone doing that and being obsessed with that and leaving early before I wake up in the morning and coming back late at night, tired. And then I think the positive side of all of that is seeing him doing that definitely gave me my work ethic and my passion and aspiration for more, and thinking that you can have big goals for yourself and chase them. And but the downside of that is definitely, and he's a lovely guy, I have no problem, that it's just he's definitely like he was always into rugby and that was the only sport he watched. I started to play rugby and he was never able to make it to my rugby games because he was so busy on his truffle farm plantations. And then ended up being selected to play at a higher level and a higher level, but he wouldn't have never, I think he came to see me, he was pretty far to his defense, but still, for someone that is pretty passionate about the sport and watch it on the weekends on the TV at night, I didn't feel like he made enough time for for me, or I mean, I guess I didn't feel it at the time, but now I realize, I was like, oh wow, he like didn't make a lot of effort to watch his son. It was which was also interesting, is like he was always proud to tell about me to others. I was like, oh, he plays pro rugby, blah blah, and he was kind of something to brag about. But then I was like, well, he see me once play this year or twice maybe. He probably saw me twice play in a few years. Like, so it was, not much. So no matter how good I got, didn't, that was I think one of the reason why I feel I am so sensitive when I feel like I'm not good enough. That's I think part of the reason. Maybe. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah. I don't think I've really talked about that in a while, except with a therapist. But now, which is interesting with HYROX, now he's closer to retiring and he has less energy and he's been doing it for 30 plus years. Like, they made a big effort to come to see me in Manchester, come to see me in the UK. Like, they made a big trip to see me the one after in the south of France, and now we're doing in Sweden in a month, and they're all coming. My two brothers, my family. So it's very cool to see that. And I also voiced that to him. Maybe he feels guilty, I don't know. But I've definitely mentioned, like, when I was playing rugby, that it's crazy to me that you couldn't make it, 1 or 2 days. Well, also to his credit, it's hard because the truffle season is kind of like a lot of nothing, and then for a few months during the, I guess, around Christmas time before and the months after, it's when you can find those mushrooms, and so it's very busy. It's a 7 days a week type deal. But I didn't only play rugby on those months.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely voiced that later on in life, not at the time. But yeah.
Do you think that excuse me, do you think that voicing that with him and broaching that subject with him brought you to another level of like maturity or manhood?
Yes, but one that I specifically remember a few years ago that was a big turning point. It was probably 3 years ago now. And I had a public speaking exercise to do with a coach at work. There was like a seminar thing. And I talked about what I just said about him starting from something from the ground up to the people in my class. And then I was traveling to France, I think the week after or something, and I was in person with him. And I told him how proud I was to like everything that he's done. And like, it's clear, like it was crazy, like he didn't know where to go. Like he was like, he didn't know how to take the compliment, but I was like, everything that you achieved, like telling him to his face, I was proud, and like I could tell he was getting emotional, but there was no response as far as like, oh, thank you so much, dude. Like he was just like, almost I wanted him to crawl in a ball and cry, but like it was very interesting. But that's definitely a turning point. I was like, me expressing to my dad, which, like I was like, oh, it was one of those moments I was like, oh shit, I'm an adult. I don't have anything or everything figured out. And same thing, he's still an adult and he still doesn't have everything figured out. So it was kind of a touching moment, but also like a kind of a very interesting kind of a moment in our relationship. Me expressing to him like that he didn't come to my rugby games. I don't think he did much. It was like too far gone. It was, many years after I had stopped playing, and I think it's like, yeah, like, kind of dismissive. I should have, but I didn't. Maybe he sparked something in him that I don't really know about, and maybe that's why they are so adamant of showing up and watching.
Yeah.
Me competing in HYROX. But
do you think it helped you heal by bringing it up with him?
Yeah, but it's interesting because also I I didn't really understand that there was an issue. Like I was like, oh, that's a bummer. My dad is not never coming to. But like, you know, you're young and you're going through the things. It's only later on that, you know, we start about like, why do I feel like I always have to prove to myself to everyone around me? In athletics, at work, like there was always one thing that I always felt like they had all the expectation that I put on myself. Everyone else had the same expectations. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Again, it resonates very deeply with me because I had a similar interaction with my dad where after I did a lot of deep inner work and, you know, started looking at, you know, my mechanisms for what drives me and everything, and it's very similar, you know, of like, hey, I'm not enough, you know, I need to prove myself in the world and do all these things and blah, blah, blah. And then once I decided to have a conversation with my parents about it and just basically say, hey, this is why I am the way that I am. I don't want it to be like a guilt trip. I don't want you to feel bad about it, but it's just like, it's something I want you to understand me better. After I had that conversation, for them, of course, it turned into a lot of guilt for them.
Yeah.
But for me, it helped me really to heal and like sort of be like, okay, like this is out in the open. I can talk about it now. I can let it flow through me and not cling and, you know, and stick to me and stuff. And so, that's why I asked, is because, yeah, it, like I said, it deeply resonates with me. And again, thank you for sharing all that, man. I really appreciate it.
I've had a few times with my mom. I'm closer to my mom. We talk a lot on the phone. And I'm like, sometimes I'm just trying to understand, like, why are all those motivators, like, I still don't know all of them or what are the underlying reason for sure. But it's very interesting stuff that I learned. I just learned last year that my dad was almost not there when I was born. That he was so freaked out about watching birth that he literally was like staying home. And I was like, oh, seems like that makes sense. You little pussy.
Yeah, I feel that too, man. One big question I want to ask you about sort of everything that we've kind of unpacked was, you mentioned creating space in these intense moments, particularly with your partner. What has been the biggest mechanism and way that you can create space for yourself in those moments of high emotion or high intensity in your life, so that you can be less reactive and more proactive, I suppose, or more in control?
Well, I think it's definitely goes through repetition and like recognizing, oh, I have this fire, something is bubbling in me. And then that's when that's when, at least for me, from my experience, before I get reactive, it's when I'm like, hey, we're gonna both not gonna we're gonna lose at the end of this conversation. I don't see, like, if I were to react, I was about to, it's bound to have one of us more hurt than when we started this conversation. And I don't think I'm personally capable to have like enough discernment in my thoughts if I reply and have this conversation right now with this fire under me. And so that's recognizing that, and then be like, take a moment, usually not in the same room, and be like, okay, come back and be like, I've been thinking about this or this, and I understand you. Because that was something that I definitely got from my failed marriage, was I did not leave enough room for the other person's emotion and trying to understand them. I mean, I was not even understanding my own emotion, so I'm supposed to understand someone else. But now it's more like, okay, step back. Why am I reacting this way? And then why is she reacting this way? Oh, seems like there is a pretty easy solution to it. Or if not a solution, an amicable, compromise, and something we both at the end of the day want to feel heard, feel like the other partner care and has our best interest at heart. And then how do we find together a solution that works out for the. But it's definitely, back to your question, at least for me, is I'm just so reactive that I look like a chill, nice guy like that, but I don't know why I have this fire thing when it gets to argument. So I knew that, like, yeah, I need to step away.
So actual physical space.
Yeah, physical space, but if not, like, just like I shouldn't start trying to start talking and unpack everything while I'm feeling that turmoil, because that's not good for anyone. And the more I've been practicing that, the less and less I've had that turmoil. It just doesn't become a natural inclination when we have a fight, and that's something that upsets me. I feel like less and less. You said it earlier. Maybe the age is part of it. Age is probably a thing too, but it doesn't.
No,
it doesn't.
I know a lot of old guys that are pretty reactive.
That's true.
You know.
Yeah.
So, give yourself a little credit.
Yeah, but I definitely think that's because I've now done it for many years. I definitely think that it doesn't become my default reaction anymore, which is great. It means you can change. I needed to believe. That's something that has been important in the recent years. Is I needed to believe that people can change and I can change because of, like I said, I looked at myself in the mirror and I started to not recognize myself, and I was like, "You're not the person you thought you were. You're not a great guy. You're not that fun friends and, kind soul that you thought you were. Like, that doesn't add up anymore." And so what do I need to do to be that person? So back to reaction. Usually most of the fights and the things that I said and stuff was always reacting. And also alcohol was almost always involved. So that's something with Shelby, my girlfriend now, and I realized 4 years ago, was that the only time we had a bit of tension in some fights was we were usually drunk. That was part of kind of and so we barely drink anymore and we don't fight anymore. That's because it's one of those things. It's like, yes, leave a little, get a drink, whatever. But also it's like you lose control. And one of the things that I need to control for my sake and the sake of our relationship is my anger. And so I think that's part of why I've not exploded in arguments for many years now, is because I don't let myself lose control.
Robin, thank you. Thank you for coming on.
We went way deeper than I thought we would go today.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
Good.
It's good. I was looking forward to have a one-on-one conversation. It's crazy that we need a mic to make it happen with another individual, but you do that with your podcast. I don't necessarily sit down with a friend and unpack my childhood for 2 hours ever. So yeah, it's good.
Good. I'm glad, man. Well, thank you for being vulnerable here today. One last question for you. Like, if you could go back and give yourself just one piece of advice when you were younger, in your toughest days and your darkest days, what would it be?
One single piece of advice. Maybe it's temporary. Like anything, you have to be older, of course, to realize that. But if I told that to my younger self, I don't know if he would have believed it. But that's any like dark moment you're in your life when like everything seems to go to shit and seems like there is no hope, or it's just it's just temporary. Like when I look back on my life and the stuff that I overcame, I wish I had a bit more, confidence. That would have definitely made it a bit easier to know that you'll see the light at the end of all of that. And definitely not I'm not the most optimistic person. So having someone reminding me that like you're going through shit right now, but show up for yourself, work on yourself, and focus on what you can focus on. And you'll see a light at the end of this. So
this too shall pass.
these two shall pass.
What do you want to promote? Where can people find you? What are you working on? Tell me about your company. What do you got going on?
Just Robin Perségol, first and last name on Instagram, and everything is on there.
Okay.
I'm very excited. I got a partnership and a sponsored at SKD Athlete, which is this brand. And they're gonna help me amongst the other brands I'm part of to just keep fulfilling my athletic goals and being better and better. And then my company is called RPG Design. I do gym design consulting and architectural design. So yeah, everything is on my Instagram. They want to find me.
For the RPG design, is that local to Austin only, or is that
No, it's all
anywhere?
over. Yeah. These day or age, I can work pretty much on any project anywhere,
Sure.
which is very exciting. But if it's local, even better. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Closing tradition here on the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
which is I ask every guest to leave a book recommendation
Mm-hmm.
for the next guest without knowing who the next guest is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, because our episodes are so close together, I was not able to get your book in time to give you a physical book. It will be here tomorrow, so I'll have it for you on Run Club on Wednesday.
Can I know what it is? Or
yes, absolutely. So it's called Before and Laughter by Jimmy Carr.
Okay, nice.
Are you familiar with Jimmy Carr?
Yeah, I love him. I've listened to podcasts with him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you'll be getting that book soon.
Nice.
But again, sorry I don't have it for you now. I went to 4 freaking bookstores yesterday. I couldn't find it.
Okay.
Ordered
That's
it
all right.
Amazon.
I can wait 2 days to read it.
But what book recommendation do you have?
So that book that I recommended from Young Pueblo, Clarity and Connection.
Okay.
Is one of those very easy read. It feels like you can read every page. That's this one single book I think where I had the most like moment or like okay, like figure out things. And I was reading it when I was working on myself and I was single and I was a young divorcee, and I was just like, it just made me recognize so many things about the patterns and about like what I did wrong, what I could be doing better. And so I started to have notes all over mine because there's a lot of white space around it. Then I bought it to Shelby, my girlfriend, when we started dating. And she also really liked it. I've recommended it to other friends over the years. And I think it's one easy read. You can just, I would guarantee you right now, I would dive back into a copy without my notes. And I'll probably find 20 more golden nuggets that I didn't think about at the time because I was a different person 4 or 5 years ago and I read it for the first time. So yeah, that book.
Clarity and Connection by Young Pueblo.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Robin, thank you so much, man. Thank you for being vulnerable here today with me. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
I've enjoyed connecting with you in this way.
Sounds good.
Amazing, man.
I was supposed to go back to work after that.
Yeah, right? All right, man.
Was it good?
Yeah, dude. It's very good. How do you feel?
I got a bit lost in my thought toward the end.
Yeah.
I also need to take a piss so bad with the coffee.